Hello, welcome to Working Dragon Mystic, where we discuss real, metaphysical, and occult content so that you can manifest real and tangible results in your life. This week, we're going to be discussing the Arcane Pillars a little bit more, so stay tuned. Okay, folks. I hope you're all doing all right. I've been getting a lot of questions about something that I've referred to in at least one previous video, and I've mentioned off and on through live streams and other videos. I know I've done specifically one video on it, and that is the Arcane Pillars. Now, some people have even asked me, where did I get this concept? Honestly, this came directly from the dragons. This has no connection to me. This was something they taught me. And honestly, I'm glad they did, because throughout my career as a magician, a practitioner, a mage, whatever you want to call me, these have been invaluable. And I do understand, it took me a while, but I did come to understand why they're so empowerable, or why they're so powerful, and why they're so important. And also their relationship to the Dragon's Eye Triangle, which you see at the center of the Dragon's Eye seal. And many of you are familiar with it. It's this thing right here, this little 3-point triangle with the lines in it. Now, the thing is, the only thing I'm ever kind of been a little irked about is the name, the Arcane Pillars, because it makes sense in every respect except one. And that is the foundation that the pillars are built on. And let's start there first off, okay? Now, we will keep pointing back here. So, all right, see this blank space in here, all this? This is actually viewed as the foundation, this blank space. Everything that the pillars is built on this blank space. Now, at the tips of the Dragon's Eye Triangle would be each of the Arcane Pillars. That is very important. And you'll notice each of these lines connects each of the pillars to one another. They are all interrelated and connected in some way. And this again ties into the dragon's concept of balance. A magician, a practitioner, specifically and very majorly, if you wish to practice dragon magic, you have to understand and have a working function of all these things. You can't just choose one and leave the rest alone, because it throws the entire thing out of balance and will actually begin to harm your ability to work within the one you even chose. And actually, I've found that this really goes for any magical practice, in truth. And honestly, this is when people ask me for their help. This is what I use to diagnose it and improve their workings drastically and easily. But the reason we're starting here is these pillars are built on this foundation, aren't they? And if you don't have a foundation to build on, you ain't got shit. So, what is that foundation? The foundation of the Arcane Pillars is meditation. Yes, meditation. People don't like meditation. People say meditation is boring. I don't want to do it. And I've been given every excuse in the book as to why they don't want to do it. They can't do it. They'll just list all these things. Well, let me make it simple. If you don't want to do meditation and you don't want to do the work that's required to learn it, or you think you can't do it, you would be the first person in the world that can't do magic. It's that simple. Might as well find a new hobby. Because meditation is the foundation of all magic. And meditation includes a lot of skill sets that are used in every form of magic. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. From visualization, from focus, from discipline. All these things are built and trained within that meditation framework and move forward into other forms of magic. It is vitally important. It was no mistake that the first course that we released at the online school was meditation. And in that, we teach very, very detailed and active workings of meditation. Believe me, if I had to sit, be inactive, and do nothing and just have an empty head for 30 minutes, that'd drive me batty. I wouldn't do it. I agree. But meditation is far more than that. Meditation is about visualization work. It's about understanding yourself and how you work with visualization. Meditation helps you develop your arcane senses. Meditation is literally the building blocks of everything we do in Magick. And without that foundation, you're going to sink, period. Okay? Now, we may do more detailed videos talking about meditation, but we do have a few videos on here already about beginner meditation and overcoming meditation hurdles. And of course, over at workingdragonmystic.com, in the online school section, we do have a full, detailed, massive meditation course that includes different styles of meditations, different methods, different exercises, and it even includes an entire path working of meditation and ritual style work to get you started in utilizing I need some coffee. Utilizing meditation to manifest some changes in that life and in your life and really start to shape it. And we give examples that are fun and active. We want meditation to be embraced. I know this older ideal of meditation. It's first off, most meditation is not described well, in my opinion. They make it sound very boring. And many of the concepts, probably from the mid-'80s to early 90s cartoons that deal with spirituality and meditation, make it just sound boring as fripp. But you're going to need to work on your meditation before you can start working on the other 3 pillars. Now, what are those other 3 pillars to a... Well, I should also say meditation does include trance work. And the ability to achieve trance is something we talk about in the meditation course and how to do it and how to utilize it, okay? Now, from there you have the 3 pillars. And these are the ones that most people tend to want to jump to. And those are journeying, which is journey work, astral travel, and at later times it gets more advanced into things like soul travel. Some people even put lucid dreaming work into this category, and it is a form of journeying, though a lot of magicians, myself included, don't find lucid dreaming and dream work to be as useful as others, but that's a matter of opinion. But it would still be within that journey pillar. But the most common things listed within that journey pillar is actual full journey work through trance, astral travel, and soul travel. Those are the 3 big ones most people look at. Now, the next pillar is divinations, functional divinations. Every magician out there needs a functional form of divinations that they can use and rely on in order to help them understand information, to seek out answers. Now, granted, divinations, people really, again, this is another one people have the wrong idea. It's not about just seeing a future. First off, you can look into the future, but the future is not a fixed point. So all you're seeing is a glimpse of a probable future from this point. And divinations is great for helping us navigate those currents and those waters to show us how to reach a specific future or point and to help warn us of pitfalls along the way. It does not guarantee that what you see is going to happen. You still have to do your work on this end to get there. It's kind of like a road trip. If you sit on your couch and never get in the car and do the trip, you're never going to get there, period. And even if your friend took you a picture of your favorite sandwich shop and sent it to you, you wait 2 years and make that road trip, that shop may be closed down. It may be gone. It's not there. So the trip never happened. And what you thought you would see never happened because you didn't do the work when you needed to. All things are a constant flux. So divinations is not about predicting the future or seeing the future. It's about gaining knowledge and information and pulling it from the ether and utilizing it here and now to shape your path and direct it and guide it. Much like a boat on the ocean has a rudder. Divinations is that rudder that allows you, or divinations would be your map, that allows you to utilize the rudder to do the work to get the boat where you're going. And this is vitally important for a magician. This is going to help you reach your goals and help you manifest the things you want when you have an active divination practice. Now, sure, there are other things we can use divinations for to answer questions to things that we might not necessarily know or we're seeking some guidance on. And everyone has their preferred forms of divinations. And some practitioners, myself included, have divination methods that really we will not teach our students and we don't trust them and we have our reasons. Me personally, those are Ouija boards and pendulums, any divination device that relies on an ideomotor response, including dowsing rods. I am not a fan of them because the data is far too corruptible and it is impossible to remove the human element. And when you do remove the human element, I have never once seen those devices work when you remove the human element because you remove the idiomotor response. So I'm not a fan of those personally. But if you use them and you get good results and you're comfortable with it, that's fine. But again, we have to state that I don't like when the data can't be trusted, so I'm going to have a major issue personally with those, and that's understandable. Okay, so that's 2 out of the 3 pillars. What is the third one? The third pillar is usually called evocation/invocation. This is working with entities. This is the ability to work with entities, to call entities to you and to work with them as allies. Okay, this isn't about binding entities. This is about working with them as allies. You will get far better results. Now this one is one that I know a lot of people want to jump into almost immediately. Practically every person who emails me asking for lessons, this is what they want to learn. And they get so mad when I tell them, we can do this, no problem, and we have to build up the skills to get there. They think I can just flip a switch and suddenly they're evoking spirits the next day. It's not that easy. It does not work that way, unfortunately. But this is, again, the third pillar. This is a powerful one. And it's pretty much what it says. Evocation, you're calling a spirit into the room with you or into your location so you can have a real-time conversation with it. This does require use of your arcane senses. You need your arcane sight to see it. You're going to need your arcane hearing to hear it. I know a lot of magicians who, if you're using a tarot deck, if you're using a pendulum, if you're using any form to communicate with the spirit in any shape, form, or fashion that isn't through a real-time active conversation utilizing your arcane senses, they won't count it as evocation. I kind of see their point on that. I'm still, the jury's out a little bit for me, because if you can start to develop, I think it's okay. The big thing for me is, and one reason I can see their point, and I'm leaning toward agreeing with them, I know way too many people who start to use crutches and tools for evocation, and they never develop past it. They just stop and they short sell themselves, and that's a sad thing. So I don't allow my students to use any of those crutches ever. It sucks, and I'm not the bright teacher for everybody, but that's just what it is. But that third pillar is evocation. And invocation is essentially, as we've discussed in a previous video, that's when you literally call the entity into you. It's a little different. You can still have the real-time conversation. It has more risks. It has other things that go along with it, but it is still a part of that practice. Now, if you go over to the school, you will notice we have some divination classes over there. We have a tarot class, okay? We have the meditation class. Before you ask, because I know this video is going to come out way before, we are working on the evocation class so that the pillars will be done. They will be done. And we do cover journey work a bit through the Dragon Magic class as well as the meditation class. Someone has asked if we're going to do a full journey class. We're considering it. We're looking into it, actually. We have some great ideas for that, potentially. But for now, we're working on the evocation class. Now, I said those 3 pillars are interconnected and help each other. How? Okay, let's first look at the arcane senses. So when we're talking about journey work, we're going to need to be able to see. We're going to be able to see where we're going. We're going to be able to experience those worlds as we do that journey work, no matter where we go. That's your arcane sight. You need to train that. You're going to need your meditation to help you train that. Now, that arcane sight ability is actually going to help you connect journey work to evocation. And journey work can actually help you to build the skills in order to go into the astral to find an entity to talk to, even if you can't call it to you. That would still technically work, and you're still sharing that connection there. Journey work can also help you to do forms of divinations by going out and trying to find answers. Divinations can actually help you with journey work, help you to find locations you may want to go to. Again, in a case of like scrying, though, you're going to need your arcane sight to do that as well. So you are seeing an overlap in all these things. Same thing with evocation. You're still going to need that sight and hearing and the ability to hear. Now, when you're doing a true divination, you are still having to hear the information and process it. So those arcane senses are really becoming that major overlap there. But many of the practices magicians find overlap, and the skill sets as you develop one enhances and empowers the other. You constantly seem to get better at them if you're working them together. Now, of course, a lot of people then ask, well, what's that center point? This center point is you. It is the magician. It is you. You are the center point. You are keeping this in balance. You are training all three of the pillars. You are standing on the foundation that is meditation. You have a solid foundation, meaning you have a solid meditation practice. And you are utilizing and maintaining all three pillars in balance. Now, what this means is as you develop all three pillars and you keep that foundation, your practice in all three of those skill sets are going to go up and up and up and develop. But if any one of them falls out of balance, it's going to start dragging the others down with it. And the same thing with the foundation. If you let the foundation suffer, everything comes down with it. I know a lot of people are like, that sounds like a lot of work. Is it? Is it really? Because let's think about it. We've already discussed that doing these things help each other. So training one trains the other. It's almost like a compound exercise at the gym, which is pretty freaking cool if you ask me. But it does require you to take a little bit of time. Meditation practice you could easily knock out in 10 or 15 minutes once or twice a day to keep those skills up. If you're doing journey work or astral travel of any kind, or utilizing simple trance work, like in the meditation class, you are also developing your journey work skills as well. If you're using meditation to get into your astral sanctum, which we have a video here on astral sanctums and how to set those up, again, you're developing those skill sets again. And you're still working on your arcane senses while you do these things. These things all are engaging your arcane senses. So you're constantly training those as well. You're utilizing divinations weekly, maybe 2 times a week, maybe once a week, something like that. You are practicing divinations. This is one of the reasons I love scrying so much. I can do a scrying session every day for so many different reasons that it's just a versatile form of divinations. I do have tarot cards. I don't tend to use them as much. I really do prefer scrying or runes. I'll throw runes at least once a week to get an ideal, but I do also use scrying. Scrying is definitely my primary divination. And then there's evocation. I will work with entities quite regularly, daily actually, but even when I'm on a lower thing, like maybe on vacation or something, trying to rest up, I still tend, sorry, my mouth is going dry here. Sucks being afraid of a camera. There we go. I still tend to at least communicate with 1 or 2 entities through ritual and evocation work a week. It's just, I love hanging out with them. They're my friends. I love spending time with them, learning from them. I constantly do enjoy to be learning. These are things that are actually very easy to work through, and you could honestly, in 30 minutes to an hour a day, easily be able to maintain all 4 of these things. Now, with that said, what is the benefit of this? Here's what I've found. If you actually have a functional and working knowledge of these 4 things, then you essentially have reached the point as a magician where you shouldn't need a book. You shouldn't need to go buy a book to get an answer. You can get an answer. You shouldn't need to go buy a book every time you want to learn something new. You have essentially unlocked the multiverse and your ability to learn if you're willing to put in the time. And for me, that was the huge game changer, because up until that point, I was buying books left and right. And I've said it in live streams, I really don't have a lot of books on hand anymore. I have a few that I recommend to students or people who are interested in learning and starting out that I can reference if they have a question about it. But by and large, I do not have a lot of books in my personal collection anymore. I occasionally buy a book to review it for students or whatnot. I'll take a look at that. But I usually quickly give those books away because There's really nothing in them that truly interests me. And I don't really find them as useful enough to recommend in most cases. So, yeah, I don't really keep that many books on hand. And since the dragons have taught me this concept, I've really found that there is no limit to what I can learn and what I can do if I'm willing to apply that concept. And that is one of the reasons I find these arcane pillars so valuable. Now, the interesting thing was, I learned about these 15, 16 years ago, something like that. It had been a while. And about 5 or 8 years ago, give or take, way before I was up here on the YouTube, I was perusing the internet, and I came across a young feller by the name of E.A. Coetti. Anybody know him? I'm sure you do. Now, at first, I didn't like his channel, and I'm still sketchy on some of his stuff on there. But here's the thing. I'm a big believer in we can listen to those who we may not agree with in order to seek an understanding. But the real thing that caught me, because I was watching some of his stuff that I found a little overly edgy and gimmicky, but I also noticed this kid had a following. And there was a lot of people giving him a lot of credit. And I even knew a few magicians who knew his name. So I wanted to, so I took some time and watched a little bit of his content one time. Granted, I was laid up at the time, so I really couldn't do much else. So it gave me something to do. But in there, E.A. Coetti talked about something that he called the 3 godlike powers. I think is what he called them. It's something like that. And Coetti listed them off as Divinations, Evocation, and I think he just focused on soul travel. Now, I found that interesting because here's a magician who's talking about similar concepts, but I did notice he left that meditation thing out. Now, I was able, about 4 or 5 years ago, to get a chance to have a conversation with him, which to this day I find was an interesting conversation, because when you talk to him person to person, he's nothing like what you see in his YouTube videos. But him and I had a fascinating conversation about what the dragons call the Arcane Pillars and what he calls the Godlike powers, I believe. And it's been a long time since I've checked his content. But him and I discussed it, and I discussed, how the dragons mentioned the foundation. And he agreed that, yes, meditation would indeed be that foundational work. In fact, the meditation and everything is so base that he hasn't really put any focus on teaching that specifically, because it kind of interweaves in everything. And that makes sense, you would think, but I have noticed over the years that meditation, though it interweaves, a lot of people don't put their focus on it at all, and they tend to fall away from that practice, and that includes adepts. I know a lot of adepts who let their meditation practice slack, and they suffer for it. But he's just one example of people who have seen this correlation with these things, and once you learn them and understand them, you're not limited to going and finding a book. You're not limited to having to search the internet. You are free of that stuff, and you as a magician can seek out any answer you want and seek to manifest any life you want. You're not limited. This isn't unique to the dragons alone. Yes, the dragons taught it to me. Yes, the dragons have a philosophy around it. Yes, the dragons have a method of teaching it and showing the importance of keeping them balanced and utilizing them. But it does carry forward. Every time I've done a path working, whether it be Norse or whatever, I look at these pillars and see if there's a version of these in there, and there is. These show up in practically every functional form of magic that I've encountered. And knowing these have allowed me the versatility to pursue those. So if anyone was to ask me, Drake, what is the thing I should focus on as a magician, regardless of path, it's these. It is those arcane pillars and that foundation of meditation. If you have a good, solid, functional working knowledge of those 4 things, those 4 simple things that train themselves together, you're set as a magician. They are that vitally important. And that's one of the reasons we are trying to do a class at the online school focusing on these things, because we do indeed believe that if we can teach these primary concepts, the student by and large could just take those lessons, take those classes, meditation and stuff, and they can apply those in a manner where they're not reliant on the next book, the next craze, the next... And I've been told, well, it's stupid for you to, shortchange yourself, because if you teach these, they have no need of you. I'm okay with that. I'm sharing information here to help you all out. And this is really the foundation of how I teach my students as well. I want them to master these things right here. If they master those and they get a good handle on them, and they continue to develop them and learn them throughout their career as a practitioner, I know they're good. All right? I know this has been a long one, and I hope this makes a little sense and covers these a little better. If y'all want me to do a video on each one individually, let me know. I will try to do that. We'll try to talk about them in some detail a little bit more. And until next time, I'm Drake. This has been Working Dragon Mystic. Take care. Bye-bye.